What is going on, all my haunted followers? First and foremost, let me say how sorry I am for posting this video so late. I had a deadline and December just got really busy for me. But here it is, my Hoosac Tunnel story. Enjoy. So for those who do not know, the Hoosac Tunnel is a 4.75 mile active railroad tunnel. The western Massachusetts passes through the Hoosac Range, an extension of the Vermont's Green Mountains. It runs straight line from the east portal along the Deerfield River in the town of Florida to its west portal in the city of North Adams. Work began in 1851 under an estimated cost of $2 million and ended in 1875. This is coming from Wikipedia. Now, the Hoosac Tunnel is famous for a lot of things, one being the first train tunnel in Massachusetts, secondly being one of the most deadliest train tunnels ever created. This is being because of so many deaths. I believe it had around 196 deaths or workers that were killed during the making of the tunnel. Again, this is from Wikipedia. On October 17th, 1867, workers were digging the tunnel's 1,028-foot vertical exhaust shaft when a candle in a host building ignited napalm fumes and it leaked a gas meter lamp. Essentially, the workers, I believe 13 men, were all suffocated in this tunnel, and they were never brought up, or they were never given proper burials. So, you have this location with so much, energy that's being put into it, and now you have deaths, and not only a small amount of deaths, you have 196 confirmed deaths at this location. So without a doubt, this location has some history to it, and not such good history. So back in 2010, I was with a group called Spirit Chasers. They were out of Massachusetts. I do not believe they exist anymore. I was a lead investigator. We actually had come upon the Hoosac Tunnel by simply researching it online, and given the history, we were all about it. Any location like this, I think for me, was to this day, one of those locations that have had so much happen and so much energy and so much death that, for me, it's probably one of the only, as of today, locations I've been that really has that type of history, compared to Gettysburg, which I only was able to spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes there, not even be able to investigate. Now, on our team, and this will be important for the story later on, we had a medium. And I know in the past I have had not so much nice things about mediums, but I assure you that if they do exist, this girl was definitely one of them. So the story takes place, I would say, late November, early December, if I remember correctly, because it was really cold out. Before we had to head up to North Adams, we had contacted the local police department and informed them that we were going to be camping out. And that's exactly what we were going to do. We were going to camp out that night at that location so we can have at least 7 to 8 hours of investigation going on, because first off, it was really cold and we just wanted to be able to keep warm to make a fire, and we didn't want to drive from here to North Adams. I believe from my location it was about 2 hours, so we were going to drive 2 hours to investigate for 3 to 4 hours. So the idea was to camp out that night. So anybody who's ever been to this location, you know that you have to follow a decent amount of train tracks. It's heavy residential area. There's a lot of homes there, so you have to find a location for us to park. It was really hard for us to find a place to park. If I remember correctly, we were able to park at it was a church or something. I can't remember correctly. It was a church, or it was a doctor's office, and we were able to cross into the street, and then we found the tracks and then walked the tracks up, which is about a mile of track to get to the actual opening, or the tunnel entrance. Once we found the location, and at the time we were just going off of Google satellite imaging, we found the tunnel's entrance, and for me, right away, something was absolutely just felt off about the location and how pitch black this tunnel is. Mind you that I believe that the tunnel or those railroad tracks is still active, so there's something else we want to look out for. And I remember just thinking how freaky it felt. I can't explain that feeling. It just felt off. The whole location felt off. And the medium with us, I'm going to call her Jamie, that's her real name obviously, told me she felt absolutely uncomfortable. And when I say pitch black, this tunnel was absolutely pitch black. And when we shined our flashlights, it didn't even reflect off the walls of the tunnel. That's how dark this tunnel was. So essentially, reports from the tunnel vary, but a lot seem to have experience with ghostly noises, voices, and some also claim to be being pulled away from the tunnel itself, almost as if to tell them not to venture into the tunnel. So once we're in the tunnel, we started making our way through the dark. Back then, we were trying to limit the flashlights. One, because we were using pictures, and two, we're trying to use our night vision cameras. Or back then, for the people who remember these kind of cameras, they were night shot on them. It's almost night vision, but it was called night shot on the old camcorders. So it was really hard to see because of how dark that tunnel actually is. So we started using our flashlights, and as all of us are walking down the tunnel, we all heard simultaneously the sound of a train in the distance, the horn on the train in the distance. So we thought that a train was coming, so we actually ended up running back towards the entrance and making our way out of the tunnel. And we sat there for about 5 to 10 minutes, and the train never came. Now, this could have been a train in the distance, this could be a train in the location, I'm not sure. It was clear as day as a train horn that what we heard, but a train never came, and we didn't understand that, and it kind of creeped us out. So we made our way back into the tunnel, and we waited another 10 minutes before heading further into the tunnel, just in case if the train was still coming or if there was a train coming. But again, a train never came. So we started to walk the tracks, and even with a flashlight, it was really hard to see. And I remember the tunnel being unbearably cold. I mentioned this to the group at the time, and we all agreed that we don't know how much longer we could take this cold. I mean, it was absolutely freezing. And Jamie was walking behind us. I think she was kind of taking a feel of the location. And all of a sudden, she just started gasping for air like she was choking. And we all obviously ran to her, and I thought she was choking. And she was talking to us, and I know she's moving air, so I'm telling her to cough, because I know she's still moving air, and if she's choking, she can push the debris out of her throat. And she quickly explained to us that she wasn't choking, and that she felt like she was being suffocated all of a sudden. So we got her to calm down, and she explained that the feeling was out of nowhere. And she said it felt like her lungs were basically on fire. And this happened, this flashback of this, what she felt, she said all of a sudden she smelled smoke or fire. And then all of a sudden that's when it happened to her. So as we're all standing in a group or a circle, we're all talking to her about this. And out of nowhere, I got the sudden smell of sulfur, almost like somebody lit a match right under my nose. And it was extremely strong. And the rest of the group said the same exact thing. And what was weird about it was this wasn't coming from the environment. It wasn't coming from any other source. It was just seemed like it was around us. And we moved away from this after a couple minutes to test this, and it was gone. And we moved back to that location. The smell was right there, and it was the exact smell of like a candle or a match, and I will never forget that. And you never forget that smell, that light, that match smell, or a candle. As soon as you light it, that smell, or even if when you blow it out, that smell is really general, and it was right in that one location. So we continued on, and we were walking a little bit further down the train tracks, and all of a sudden I got lightheaded, and it was almost as if someone spun me around. That kind of like you gather your senses, can't gather your surroundings, and I felt extremely lightheaded, almost to a point of passing out. And I had to sit down. And now the rest of the group was walking to me to ask me what happened, and my left ear, I heard someone say, "Run," and it was a whisper, but it was clear as day that someone told me to run. So the group comes running up to me, and I asked them right away if they heard anything, that being the voice, and everyone said no. So I stood up and I gathered myself, and I explained to them that out of nowhere I felt dizzy. And Jamie looked at me and pointed on the tracks. At this point, we're about 50 to 100 feet inside the tunnel, away from the entrance, and my back is towards the entrance. And she said, "There's two guys at the end of the tunnel, and they're just standing there." So we all turn around and we look down the tunnel, and we're not seeing anything. I'm not seeing what she's seeing, obviously. And we're all saying, we don't see anything. She says, "There's two guys walking up towards us and one is holding a lantern." Again, we're not seeing anything. I'm shining my flashlight down the tunnel. I'm not seeing anything. And she's just deadlocked on this entrance. She says, "There's two guys walking up right now." So we started taking pictures with the digital cameras that we had with us, and we pointed them down the tunnel, and we looked back at the camera, and it was clear as day. There was two figures inside the flash. Now, we tried to debunk that so many times. We had taken so many pictures, and each time there was nothing that could debunk that. The flash wasn't bouncing off of anything. And as we're sitting there looking through the pictures, trying to, I guess, kind of debunk this, we all simultaneously heard footsteps walking up towards us in the side of the tunnel. You could hear the footprints on the rocks, the pebbles that were on the ground around the tracks. Clear as day. And we're still shining our flashlights at the tunnel, looking down both ways. There's no one coming. And it was clear view 100 feet in front of us and 100 feet back. And the footsteps were no more than 20 feet away from us that we could hear. And then all of a sudden, it stopped. Everything just went silent. And the temperature around us completely changed. Now, it was cold. It was absolutely cold inside this tunnel. I mean, you're probably talking maybe 30, 40 degrees inside the tunnel, and you could feel the change to a point where we got goosebumps, and we could start seeing our breath. So we had these digital cameras, and out of nowhere, the digital cameras just died. And I knew then and there that someone were trying to manifest. So this whole time, Jamie's being really quiet. And I remember I looked at her, and she was looking down at the ground. And I went to say, "Jamie, are you okay?" And she picked up her head. And the way she picked up her head was very robotic-like, if that's the best way to describe it. And out of nowhere, she says, "It's time for work, boys." And it did not sound like her voice. So the founder, I'm going to call him Scott, quickly jumped into this. He said, "We need to get her out of here. I think something's trying to take over her body, or something's trying to latch on." So each team member grabbed her, we started walking towards the exit. So I'm following behind at this point. I'm about maybe 30 feet away from the group, just kind of trying to do some EVPs as we're walking towards the exit. And clear as day, I hear what sounds like pickaxes hitting rocks. Clear as a river. It's just sound like a group of men talking amongst themselves, and you can hear the pickaxe actually hitting the rocks. And I was just blown away. And I'm still recording at this point with the voice recorder. So obviously, I'm trying to get everyone's attention. And right as I go to call everyone, a small pebble hits the back of my jacket. Now, it wasn't thrown in a violent way. It hit me almost as if someone's trying to grab my attention. I slowly turned around, and about 40 feet up the tunnel looked like men. that were working on the walls. I could see the lanterns clear as day. I could see the men in the overalls and the metal helmets, kind of like a saucer-looking helmets, old silver-looking helmets. And my brain processes, and I'm like, wow, why are these guys working late at night right now? But then it quickly dawned on me that where these guys were, we were just standing. I am sitting there in absolute awe that I'm seeing this. They're not disappearing, they're still there. So I'm standing there, and I think maybe at that point I'm in my own little world, and I feel something touch my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's a founder, and it was Scott. And he said, "Hey, what are you doing? Let's go." And I go to look back where all these men were, where these lanterns were, and they're gone. I'm trying to collaborate words at that point to Scott. I'm trying to come up with something to tell him what I had just seen, and I can't. I am just not that I was scared at that moment, not that I was frightened. It was something your brain cannot process at that moment. And I'm trying to tell him, there's guys up there, there was men up there, and he was like, I don't see anything, there's nothing there. But they were gone. That whatever I had seen was there for a few seconds and then just disappeared. I am blown away. I am blown away that I saw this. This was the first time in my paranormal career that I saw apparitions, or maybe a residual energy stuck in time, clear as day. I could hear the sounds. You know, I've had experiences like this before, but it wasn't like got set off in a different world or a different time zone. It was residual energy just stuck in time at that time frame. And I remember thinking maybe those were the men that had that terrible thing happen to them. Maybe those were the men that got stuck there and they suffocated because of the candle being lit and explosion. Maybe those were the guys. So we ended up ending the night at that point. We didn't venture on at that point. Again, this was an active tunnel. We didn't want a train going through there or even messing with our EVPs or anything. And I thought, we had gotten enough at that point. So we went home and we went over the EVPs, we went over pictures, and there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. We had received nothing from what we got. No EVP, we got no pictures. It was almost like it never happened. And I think this happens a lot with residual energy. I think what is left at this location is essentially residual energy. It's not spirits, but more residual energy. And because something traumatic had happened so many times at this location that energy is stuck there. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the story. I know it was short, but it was one of those locations that we went in. We felt that we had done enough when we were there. The Hoosac Tunnel, without a doubt, is a very haunted location. I can't tell you right now that I think there's spirits still stuck there. If anything, there's definitely residual energy. We have such a traumatic events happen over and over again. 196 souls lost their lives there building this tunnel. So without a doubt, you're going to have residual energy. And that's what I think is there. Guys, check out the Hoosac Tunnel. Without a doubt, very haunted location. Just be careful. I believe it's still an active railroad, so be careful if you go at night, even during the day. Go there, do some EVPs, take some pictures, experience what I experienced. Because for me, I love the Hoosac Tunnel, and I will definitely be going again. Happy hauntings.